Hi, my name is Colin Jacob, and thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be talking about Canis rufus, or betterly known as the red wolf. A little family and classification. It falls into the Canidae family, which can be translated to dog-like carnivore. The same classification has the American coyote in it, which also happens to be closest living relative to the American red wolf. Into history and their background. Currently, in the wild, there are 20 to 21 living, with many attempts of reintroduction made, but unsuccessful. The original population of the red wolf spanned the bottom half of America, ranging from Texas all the way up to North Carolina. We can see that in 1978, there was a relocation attempt made, which started the population that is now currently the population living in North Carolina. It started with a single pair from a breeding pair out of one singular zoo, which then followed, and there was prosperous attempts made. However, it did end in failure, with the classification being deemed extinct in the wild, given to the red wolf between the 80s and 90s. Currently, it is one of the most threatened animals on the planet. So what truly happened to the red wolf population? Well, we can see due to overhunting, accidental deaths, and genetic drift caused by interbreeding. Now let's go over overhunting. We can see that through no legislation being placed and all of the hunting matters limiting and controlling red wolves not being that tight, red wolf populations fell over many years, and then we can see here during the reintroduction year, there was a prosperous attempt, but it does start to slowly decline again here in 2016. And between these times, 2010 and 2014, legislation was extremely lenient again on the populations of red wolf due to the rise in the population that they saw. Accidental deaths account for over 60 to 70% of the current day deaths of red wolves, caused by them walking into roadways, being shot after hours due to their similarities of the American coyote, and along with simply getting stuck in traps and dying in turf disputes with other animals. Now, genetic drift caused by interbreeding is a subject that causes great alarm due to the fact that since the red wolf closest living relative is the American coyote, they can interbreed with themselves and allow for pups to be made. This causes a genetic drift since the pups can no longer breed with red wolves and only themselves, causing a lack of genetic disparity between the red wolves and causing generations to die off because new generations cannot be bred with the given population. So, the struggles of reintroduction. As we know, birthing programs started in 1978 with one zoo. Currently, there are 270 red wolves in zoos as of this moment. Now, this graphic right here gives a very detailed explanation of the original range of the red wolves. We can see down here they spanned it into Texas, all the way up into North Carolina, following most of the eastern seaboard. However, the current range is now limited to this extremely small part of North Carolina, which is now the current day population of 20 to 21. Again, with struggles of reintroduction and the new reintroduction area, accidental deaths due to being placed in residential areas or close to residential areas, simply by them wandering into them or finding themselves too close to roadways and accidentally dying by being hit by a car. Development of pups is slow. So, a red wolf female will only produce around 4 to 5 pups a year, sometimes 2 years depending on the female's age. Those pups reach maturity after about 2 years, and the entire time the mom has to protect and provide for them. This causes a massive strain on the population due to the fact that there isn't an overabundant population already, meaning that there is defined pack areas and defined hunting grounds for these wolves. Rather, it's a jumbled mess of trying to find new hunting grounds while also trying to avoid residential areas and the death of pups by being hit by cars, death, or being killed by coyotes. We also see that a massive reasoning for the relocation to North Carolina was the wooded areas and the islands that provided here. However, we find that the wolves moved further inland, pushing them closer again to residential areas, increasing the death toll and causing a massive struggle on the actual reintroduction of red wolves by the breeding programs of the zoos. So what is the future for the red wolves? Well, if nothing crucial is done, we could see a fully extinct population in the wild, and simply they only exist in zoos. Due to that, we can see that breeding programs would slow down and eventually halter due to the public and government institutions deeming them unnecessarily, or that the population cannot survive. We also see a loss of biodiversity within our native animal population, which is already very threatened within America's ecosystem as is. A lot of animals currently living in America are actually invasive species, and the red wolf is one of the only remaining of 3 species that we find in America. And with the loss of that, we will not only see a native species that is important to our biodiversity loss, but we can also see generational loss of potential new species or potential genetic mutations within the species. So what are the efforts being made currently? Legislation put in by the North Carolina Fish and Wildlife Institute has made it illegal to kill them. They are on the endangered wildlife list, which does protect them. There have been bounties for any information regarding killing, trapping, or harvesting these animals in regards to humans. After our ban on shooting coyotes, due to the similarity of them being genetically close, they look very, very close, especially after hours. So North Carolina has placed a ban on shooting coyotes after hours to prevent accidental deaths of the American red wolf. We can also see on the final topic that radio tracking collars have finally been implemented, which then allows scientists to not only track pack movements and define and designate new areas for either hunting grounds or protected wildlife sanctuaries. It also allows for wildlife scientists to intervene in the efforts that a pack is starting to veer too close to a residential area. So it allows for human intervention in hopes to protect these packs and allow them to form larger packs and spread genetic diversity and allow for new pups and new mothers to take hold within the environment. Examples of reintroduction that could be used and applied to North Carolina. We can see that the Yellowstone National Park had their reintroduction of wolves over years of hunting and destruction of the population that was currently there. Due to this, Yellowstone National Park saw major efforts and decline in the wildlife and ecosystem due to beavers, badgers, and other varmints causing wetlands to build up because of dams, causing damage to riverways, and overgrazing, which caused a lack of biodiversity within Yellowstone as is. They brought in the gray wolves, which is a native species from Canada, releasing 4 packs of them into 4 separate areas of the reintroduction zone, which then allowed the packs to hold, and currently they're sitting around 170 wolves living within the park and 500 gray wolves living within the surrounding areas. And then we can move on to the American bison, which is a perfect example of generational efforts towards bringing a species back. As we all know, bisons were almost hunted to extinction for their skulls, their pelts, meat, and tongues. And also, with bounties placed on skulls and overhunting and no legislation led to basically the animals being deemed extinct. However, through generational efforts of breeding and protecting these animals, it is now taken off the extinct or endangered animal list and is now a flourishing example of a native species to America. So what really is the importance of protecting native wildlife and also the biodiversity of America? Well, we can draw into the points of simply the fact that, as said earlier, many of the species within our ecosystem currently today are invasive species. And it is really important to protect our local and national biodiversity because then it allows us to better understand what these animals were and what they came from. And then we can further understand fossil records and fossil evidence linking them to modern day. It also allows for future generations to just enjoy these animals and enjoy the biodiversity of our great nation, and also to enjoy and appreciate what biodiversity and protecting animals is throughout the environment. So I just want to say thank you for watching today, and remember, these animals need our help, and without it, they surely won't survive. So thank you, and have a nice day.